there was a lot of speculation about this car, so there's a lot of interest that comes with it as well. So I've met so many people who've just come over for a beer, come over for a look, come over to just have a chat and really appreciate that what I've done with this car is what the heritage of the Defender should be. It's an overland vehicle that's meant to be used in that way. You know, I always get the nice looks, I get the thumbs up from some people. Taking it back to the UK was really nice as well, because I think they were very surprised when I popped out of the car with an English accent with a Swedish plate. But again, you know, it was taking it back to its home, and having done so much time in it as well, there was not many people who were doing it like this. So yeah, having a car that's iconic in a way has made travel fun and easier, because there has been people with just pure interest. And I guess with this kind of overland or overland type of vehicle, you have that same interest. And I think it kind of takes a certain person to do that, because you are isolating yourself up there sometimes, but then sometimes you're up a little bit higher on a mountain pass or on an off-road track, and then you come across somebody else. May it be, you know, a Defender or a Land Rover, or it could be somebody in a Toyota or any other off-road vehicle doing the same sort of thing, and then there is that natural like-mindedness that brings you together. Bros and bro. Any bright ideas? Any bright ideas?
Neil and I actually go back a couple of years, and the same goes for me and his car. We first met sometime during 2020 when I had a press vehicle from Land Rover, and I was fortunate enough to drive this all the way up towards the Arctic. And at the time, Neil had just picked up his brand new Defender. And his plan was to live and travel with that full time. And since I was on my second year of living in a Discovery, we instantly found a connection. I wasn't really into filming back then, but I used to photograph basically everything I saw. So I have thousands of pictures of me and Neil traveling around with those two Defenders. And all of this was at a time where the new Defender was exactly that. New. If we take it back to the 29th of January 2016, the last ever produced Land Rover Defender rolled off the production line at the facilities at Solihull, UK. And after waiting years for the next line of Defenders, people really only wanted to know one thing. Is it a real Defender?
So it was a 2020 Defender, which I picked up from Land Rover Sweden, and it was one of the very first to come to Sweden at that point, during a time of COVID. It was sat on the factory floor for many months while they shut the factory. So that was also a real big strain on stress as well, for waiting for your next life to start, having already sold my house. The reason I ended up with this was kind of almost by chance. I was working in the north of Sweden, away from where I was living, in a house that I built from scratch. And I thought that the option to go and travel again was right there. I then, out of nowhere, received an email from Land Rover about the new Defender. And then that really started the ball rolling. So within a week of that happening, I'd ordered the new Defender, I'd put my house up for sale. And then it was must have been 9 months later, so it was the summer of 2020, middle of COVID, probably the worst time to try and start travelling, that I picked up the Defender.
If it's not obvious, this is not the type of camp you sleep at because it's pleasant. This is the type of place I personally would only sleep at for the experience. Neil and I was heading for the west coast, and since we had to drive across this mountain pass either way, we decided that we would spend the night on top of this Highland plateau. During an especially cold week, with temperatures dropping down to -25 during the night. And like I said, this is not a camp you spend the night on because it's cozy. This is purely because of the experience.
Oh, we could get a couple of chairs here though. This is not something you often do, warm up beer, because it's slush.
Whilst Niels was sleeping in the car, I was camping up in the iCamper. The same style of roof tent that I used to have on my old car, just a smaller version. Usually, if you camp in a place like this, you'd prefer to have a heater. But we were only spending the night, so it's not the end of the world as long as you have proper clothing and a good sleeping bag.
Don't burn me, don't burn me.
In temperatures like this, it does not take long before you start to freeze if you're not actively doing anything to keep yourself warm. And since we wanted to have at least some daylight up there, with the sun setting quite early in Norway during December, we decided to drive up there quite early. But apart from my plan to film and take some pictures of the blue light up there, we didn't really have anything on the agenda apart from beer, food, and some crisp winter landscapes. And the wood we brought to keep the fire going after the sun dipped below the horizon did a solid effort to keep us warm. But obviously everything comes to an end, and all of a sudden we were on the last log.
Oh, my eyes. To be honest, it's not too bad.
Have we got any more wood? Just the light, is that all of it?
It's the last one.
That's all of it, okay. So basically when this is over,
This will be nice for 30 minutes,
yeah,
I think.
maybe an hour.
Even though it might look remote, our camp is literally right next to the road crossing this highland region. And there's people up here supplying cabins and dog sledders, so I knew for sure that I would find something to keep the fire going. And lo and behold, after strolling down the road for a couple of minutes, I came back.
You saving the day, Casper? What?
It's brand new.
Honestly, it can't see anything.
And just to emphasize how cold -25 actually is, just listen to the pure joy of two grown men finding a wooden pallet.
Sounds like Christmas. As soon as I had in my mind that I wanted to go travel again, and I wanted to be on the road and just enjoy life a little bit more again instead of the daily grind of paying a mortgage, I went all in. And to go all in, it is kind of that thing of pulling off the band-aid as quickly as you can, because otherwise you're never going to do it. Many people contact me about, oh, I would love to live that life, I just don't think I could ever really push myself to do it. Best decision ever. When I think about what the 3.5 years have given me now, and the amount of people I've met and the amount of experiences I've had along the route, you can't replicate that experience. A lot of time people say, how do you plan your route, or where do you plan to go? And really at the start I just followed my instinct. I didn't plan to spend a winter in Austria in the mountains, but I ended up there. And then that gave me some of the best experiences ever, because I really had to push myself through cold conditions. And you can see the cold conditions that me and Casper had just been in. That was also another level. Casper knew I could do it, so I guess that's why he took me up there. But yeah, having them and challenging yourself makes it all worthwhile and rewarding as well.
There's nothing.
I cannot. Nope. For the first 4 months I spent travelling around Norway, and it was really a case with the roof tent on, a box strapped to the back, and a bag of clothes, and a cool box full of food and beer for most of the time, just to see how it would work for me. And after that period, I realised that a roof tent isn't that great in the wind, in high wind. So I knew I needed something inside. And just to be able to sort of stealth camp at times, which has been a godsend actually, because in mainland Europe it's not as easy to wild camp as, you know, Scandinavia is one of the best places for. But also in building a bed on the inside, I thought I should build some sort of kitchen setup, with some drawers and somewhere to store food for longer periods, and just to stop things rattling around when I'm off-road, because I definitely had that at the start in all sorts of conditions. Trying to cook out the back of this car was becoming a hassle. Just always getting wet constantly, and then having to sit in the front seat and eat your food there. So I knew that I needed some type of outdoor space that was covered. And then I come across the alley cab awning, batwing awning that comes all the way around the back, which that's changed everything as well. It's given me that outdoor space. From even in the summer, it's great for just shade to get away from the sun as well. But in bad conditions, when it's windy and wet and raining, I can put that up, and it keeps me cooking dry. That's one part of it. It's amazing. Touch wood, till now, I am going to do that while we're here. Touch wood, till now, I have not had any problems. It's been through, as a stock car as well, with just all year round tyres. It took Austria on by storm, midwinter in deep snow. Now, okay, I've got the KO2s on it, and that's a completely different car and a completely different animal off-road. But the one thing that this car does let you down with is the battery. And I say it in a way of, it's fine as an everyday car on a battery, but this car is meant to be for camping, or for doing off-road adventures, or for overlanding. And if you can't open the door and close the door without the battery, without the engine or the computer system trying to start up, or the fridge starting to start up, without a switch to turn that off, you're forever having to restart the engine to stop the battery dying.
And what Neil is talking about here is exactly the same problem I had on my old Discovery 4. So this is not a Defender problem, but more of a modern car problem. You see, every time you open up a door on a modern car, it will prepare itself for startup. And in a lack of a better model to showcase this, I'm using a Land Rover Series. which obviously does not have this problem. If you use the car as intended for daily use, this will obviously not be a problem. But if you're camping up somewhere, you will go in and out of that car plenty of times during the evening. You will open up a door because you forgot something. You will open up the rear latch because you forgot something. You will open up the car just to get inside, pick up a jacket, and then go back out. And the problem I had on my Discovery, and as Neil is showcasing on his Defender, is this will drain the battery because there's so many different systems starting up, preparing the car for a startup sequence. And this is easily solved, but when I asked Neil about his complaints about the car after traveling with it for 80,000 kilometers, this was everything he had. But it does kind of emphasize the underlying issue that a lot of people have with the new Defender. In similarity to my old Discovery, it is a very modern car, which is, as they claim, the best 4x4 by far. But sometimes being best is not the only goal you should strive for. There is also a lot of hypocrisy from people claiming that it's not a real Defender, it's just a pretender. But I found that most of the people claiming that is basing it purely on how the car looks. They're angry that the car doesn't look like the old Defender, in comparison to the G-Wagon, 911, Fiat 500 or Mini Cooper, all of which kind of looks like the old model, but in reality they don't share anything apart from the overall design language. Which makes me think that the people claiming the new Defender to be a pretender are the ones pretending. And in hindsight, I think that if the new model looked exactly like the old one, but was still extremely complicated and advanced, I don't think anyone would argue if it was real or not. There is plenty of reasons why they stopped making these back in 2016, apart from them failing to comply with modern car regulations. And one of them are, the people glorifying these old cars, myself included, are not the same people that buy brand new cars. So in theory, the brand is only giving the customer and the market what they're asking for. But since both the Land Rovers I drive on a daily basis is now more than 40 years old, I can clearly say that sometimes progression just for the cause of progression is not the way to go. Sometimes simple means better.